It's whirring. We're live.
Yay!
We are live.
Look at that. It works.
I know. It was one of those that I expected it to take ages, but it was super fast the other day, and it looks really fast as well today. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us live. If you're here, I know it takes a few minutes for people to join us, but I'm joined with the amazing Jo Saunders, and we are doing a live test.
Always up for test.
Live test with a guest on StreamYard. So I'm using StreamYard as a tool for LinkedIn Live, but also, even though I don't encourage this, I'm also testing this because you can live stream to different platforms at the same time. So if you are watching this, let me know where you're watching this, because I'm live streaming to my Facebook page and also my YouTube channel. So again, it's just a test. We're a bit curious to see what happens. But also, I wanted to talk to Jo and talk about LinkedIn stories, really importantly, because Jo is one of the lucky few that has it.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty exciting to have stories. So thank you for having me on your we'll call it, should we call it a show? Is this a show? Yes, it is.
Let's call it a show. And do you want to introduce yourself? So for people that have never met you before, and now obviously need to go and follow you because you are fantastic, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm the one with the bright coloured hair. Elaine's just said she loves my hair. Yes, I am Jo Saunders from Wildfire Social Marketing, and I'm known as the LinkedIn demystifier over here. I loved it, LinkedIn. So you're all about curiosity. I'm about demystifying. So we get on really well. But I guess, so I'm in Perth, Australia. I'm from England originally, from Yorkshire, and I've been over here for a long, long time, hence the accent. But hanging out with you anymore, well, you'll probably find words slipping in. The old, language will come back. But yeah, I love LinkedIn because I love what it's all about. And my kind of take on LinkedIn is a word that I made up last year called connectfluence. And connectfluence is the art, this is my definition, the art of connecting through connection to have impact and influence. And that's the name of my upcoming book as well. Yeah.
I remember you talking about the book. So when can we expect the book to go live?
Well, that's a question. I'm 80% written, but I keep finessing it and going back to bits rather than progressing forward. So end of the year, definitely it will be out. So yeah.
Fantastic. I can't wait for that. And it will be brilliant. And I noticed that Elaine's on here saying, brilliant, go Yorkshire and Australia. I'm just going to feed her.
Yes, I've got very strong Yorkshire roots. I'm really proud of being from Yorkshire, but I don't know if I could live there. I love the weather in Perth, and I just love the laid back nature over here. It's just, and the beaches,
I get that. My dad moved, my mum and dad moved over to Sardinia for that exact same reason. They're just like, we love the UK, but we hate the weather. So they're going to go to the Med, and it works. So, and
it's somewhere for you to visit.
Exactly, it works. And it is a bit tough though, especially having Ayrton now. It's like grandparents live so far away, which is a bit of a challenge. But he's won on Saturday. I'm like trying to coordinate party planning and everything like that, because we're going to have a garden party tomorrow.
That's gone so fast. I still remember you being pregnant. I mean, it just doesn't seem that long ago.
I know, a year. It's crazy. I know. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway, we digress. We don't want to be talking about babies. Nobody wants to listen to that. So let's talk about the hot topic at the moment, which is LinkedIn stories. Because I'm a big fan of LinkedIn. Sorry, I'm a big fan of Instagram stories. I really enjoy them. There are certain people that do them really well. I know that Elaine, who's joining us live at the moment, she's doing loads of amazing things with Instagram stories and Instagram TV. So you have LinkedIn stories. So tell us a little bit about them and your experience with them so far.
Yeah, so I was, it's quite interesting because I was invited to the launch of stories in Australia by LinkedIn. It's the first time LinkedIn have actually acknowledged, we exist, but they went through, all the different components. Now, it's a bit underwhelming when you compare it to Instagram stories, because Instagram's got so many features, and I don't use Instagram stories much at all, just when I'm reminded and have a play. So it's only available on the mobile app. So you need to be using it on the go, but you can watch them we can find them on desktop via messaging. So for instance, like when I did a story about you the other day, Charlie, when you did your very first live, I took a screenshot and created a story and tagged you. So you would have been able to see it either on mobile or desktop. So it doesn't matter. But in terms of the stories, they're very much like Instagram in that they sit at the top of the screen on almost a carousel. So you only see them on on the top of the feed on the mobile. You don't see them on the store on the desktop version. They're not indexed anywhere on your profile. You can't go back to them. And they expire in 24 hours, just like the other platforms too. So you don't want to put a lot of effort into it, like something that you want to, I guess, savor. So I sort of look at content as, is it, ask the question, is it feed worthy? If it's not feed worthy, it's probably a story. That's kind of where I'm differentiating. So it's good for the behind the scenes stuff, what's going on. Like if you were physically going to an event, not that many people are these days, but if you're lucky enough to get out and about, I've got a LinkedIn Local Perth that I'm organizing next week, our first face-to-face in a very long time. So there'll be a lot of stories there. But it just allows you to share these quick snapshots, 20-second videos and images. But you can't do a lot with them. And this is the limitation, or just where it's at right now. And I guess they're testing the usage. So in terms of video, 20 seconds, it can have audio, but I don't know. I don't think people are listening to audio on stories because you have to actually turn it on. So I think it's good to get the visuals across and then get the words with it. So you can put text over the top. Now, the text formatting is pretty average. I mean, what you saw the other day, that is it. You've got 5 colors. I often pick orange because it matches my brand, and then there's blue. You can't customize the colors, and there's no different fonts. There's nothing fancy. You've got stickers, which the normal stickers you can put on your native video. So you can put stickers on, and there's one sticker that has a function, which is where the Instagram kind of I guess maybe idea came in, and that's the @mention sticker, which I used on yours to alert you that I was talking about you. But other than that, that's it. In terms of functionality, you can download your story. Now, why you'd want to do that, I'm not really sure, because you can't decorate it and make it look great in order to download. It's already on your phone, so I don't know why you do that. You can delete them, and you can send them by private message. So for people that don't have access to stories, I was sharing mine via private message just to give people a bit of a sneak peek. But I wouldn't be recommending that as practice, because if I've shared a story and I message you, it's just spammy. And here's the other limitation that I'm not excited about, and they really need to fix this, I think, is the only way to interact with the story is to private message in response. So if I share a story, you see my story, you can private message me and say, well done, or ask a question, but you can't react to the story. Okay. And private messaging to say thumbs up or I've seen it, that means your inbox is going to be quite cluttered once it really rolls out, I think. So I think reacting needs to be brought in. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I suppose because that's very similar to how Instagram works, but I think I don't use the Instagram messaging feature very much. So yeah, imagine if you start doing that on LinkedIn, then that's just going to create so much noise and clutter that nobody needs in their life. So yeah, that's interesting that they're doing it that way.
Yeah, and they're adding features all the time. Now so when it first rolled out back in, I'm trying to think when it was. I think it was June, end of June, we got access.
It wasn't that long ago, because I think was it Brazil and the Netherlands that got it first?
Yeah, they got it. Then we got it. I think we're maybe the third country, and I think the UAE has it, and I think there's another country that's got it now. I'm trying to think what it is now. Then they rolled out company pages. Now here's the challenge though. So you've got that top of the home feed, which isn't very wide. I've got my profile, and I've got a lot of company pages that I'm an admin of. I've got a lot of, quite a few of my own pages for different things. But I've got client pages that I'm an admin. So you have to scroll quite a long way to get to the actual content, so I don't think that's well planned. I don't think having company pages at the very top is a good idea. I think it should be accessed through the page. That's just my personal opinion, but
Yeah, that just seems a bit. And are LinkedIn doing a group feedback like they did with LinkedIn events? Are they doing
interesting? They just invited me to the group yesterday, and not all the LinkedIn trainers that were at the launch, like the briefing in Australia, there were only about 15 of us there, 12 or 15, something like that. And not everybody was a LinkedIn expert. A couple of them were social media influencers, we'll call them. But the colleagues that I'm quite friendly with, they haven't been invited to the group. So I'm not really sure how they work that out, because they've just said you're a content creator, or they called me something or other and said, come to the group. So it's all brand new, but I've got lots of feedback for them. As always, I've always got ideas.
I was a bit like that with the LinkedIn events beta group. It was just like, right, okay, well, I use events a lot. So this wasn't very clunky, because I think what I found with events was that a lot of people kept subscribing saying that they were going to an event, but they hadn't actually subscribed to the event. So you were linking to an Eventbrite page or a Zoom or a webinar or anything like that. And, it's that kind of two-step process that not everybody was doing. So I think I had one event and it was just like, 150 people are going. And then it's like, if I had a look on the Eventbrite thing, and it was just like 25 people have signed up. I was like, what?
Yeah, that bit of, because it was not clear that you have to sign up for the event. I think that was the biggest challenge,
because it was LinkedIn Local, because I think, as you know, that I've got LinkedIn Local in Nottingham, and now sort of collaborate with a few other people to do that. And I was just like, brilliant, LinkedIn events, this is going to be great to help support that. But it's interesting about stories, about the limitations that you're saying and the messaging kind of. I'm really keen to get involved and start testing it out and trying it, because I do like it on Instagram. And I think every time I use it on Instagram, I'm like, I wish this was on LinkedIn, because it's a better way of getting to know people on a more, in the behind the scenes, more personal level. But if that means that the inbox is going to get even more cluttered than it already is, then... And
it doesn't already, I mean, I don't like messaging on LinkedIn. It's probably my probably biggest pet hate on LinkedIn, because I find it really clunky, and it's your birthday and you get all these messages, and something happens and you lose track of stuff. There's no way to manage it. But with stories, I think I think the opportunities are things like polls. Like, I know we've got polls on as posts now, but like how Instagram have done polls. If you could put a poll on a story and people could interact and vote quickly, which would you like, A or B? Which shoes? Which dress, which venue would you go to, whatever it is, just something that's quick and easy, and you can interact with the story rather than having to message a reply to the thing. And also with stories, they're only available for 24 hours. So once you reply to the story link is there, but the actual story, you can't click on it. So as long as you can kind of see the tiny little image that what it's about, because if you share a lot of stories now, you can share up to 100 a day. That's the limit. But I don't know who'd be sharing 100 100 a day.
I was just thinking that's crazy.
Now you could get clever. Now I saw a company do some really clever BHP. They're a mining company over here. You probably know them. They shared it was like a 5 or 6 part series of stories, and they did introductions to their team. So they had, obviously they're on oil rigs out wherever, and then someone on on a big truck, and they were just doing a little intros to who they are and what they do. Someone in the computing center. It was pretty cool, but the only downer was they hadn't captioned it, so you had to actually listen to it to hear what they had to say, and they were like tiny little messages. But it was really cool to see a brand looking at how they can do it. So,
I'm just going to join, because I know that. So this is something with StreamYard. If anybody's thinking about using it, sorry to interrupt, Joe. If somebody asks a question on LinkedIn, on StreamYard, you cannot reply to that comment. So if you've got a guest, so for example, Foco's just dropped in and he's like, what are you talking about? What's the subject? It's a very valid point, because if you drop in halfway, you're like, what on earth is going on? I've just replied to your comment, but then that's gone to YouTube and it's gone to Facebook, and none of those platforms can see the original comment. So that's a really strange thing. So Foco, we're talking about stories. So LinkedIn have introduced stories in certain countries, so not everywhere. I don't have it, but Joe does. So we're just talking about the pros, the cons, how they're used, and some of the benefits. We're talking about an example with BHP as well, which is, I love that, when companies, especially massive organizations, they do the behind the scenes and they really showcase their team. And because I think, especially when I do employee advocacy training, I can't wait to get in and just say, right, let's share the brilliance of your team, because one of the company's biggest assets is their team. So why not share their brilliance and get them excited about talking about the amazing things that they're doing for that company? Because that's the best way to create a talking point. And that's brilliant.
So I'm hoping then, I mean, if we use them as an example, hopefully they've empowered their team to use stories as well, to tell those micro moment stories behind the scenes. There's stuff that isn't worthy of a newsfeed type post, because I mean, obviously newsfeed content is indexed, it's attached to your profile, it's got that longevity, but some stuff is just a passing moment. I mean, if you look at the content on LinkedIn since COVID, particularly all this working from home, there's a lot of really relaxed content. There's a lot of pictures of Zoom meetings, like the Zoom screenshots, and people with their coffee cups and what are they wearing and all that, so the fun stuff. But that's how we connect. And I think, but some of that stuff is a little bit fluffy. It's a bit light on content. But if you put it as a story, it allows you still to connect, because only your connections and followers see the story. So as I was saying, it's not indexed you can't find it unless you've got a connection in. When it launched, it was just connections, but I did a bit of testing and people were responding to mine who were third level connections to me. And I worked out they were followers. So followers and connections can both see them. It just allows you to be a little bit freer with your content, knowing that it's not becoming part of your footprint that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it also allows you to share content with that inner circle of people that are in your network as well.
So on that, do you think that when stories are rolled out more, do you think that will reduce the noisy posts in the newsfeed, or do you think it will increase the noisy posts on the newsfeed?
Well, I think it will decrease some of it. I think it's settled down a bit. Like, I think the first couple of months of COVID, there was a lot of, I guess because people were in a different headspace, a bit stressed out and whatever, but and people are going back to the office now. But I certainly think that stuff will bypass the feed. But I do think it's going to get really noisy in our inbox though, as a result, when people interact.
I think it was more around just having an easy point of entry, because I think there are some people that find like I get asked all of the time, what is the correct etiquette for posting on LinkedIn? So there's still a lot of people that think, it needs to be very formal, very third person, very professional. There is still a lot of people that think that. But then also you get a lot of people, it's like the Facebook police, that belongs on Facebook, that doesn't belong here.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether or not stories is going to be that kind of easy point of entry for some people, but then that might encourage them to change their behavior in the newsfeed, or I don't know. I'd be interested to see how that works out, whether the quality of a lot of the newsfeed posts will drop as a result of stories, or people will use stories as a way to post that content and leave it off the newsfeed, which is my hope. But
yeah, well, it's interesting because I think it's going to come into how you use platforms in general. Like, I'm not a big consumer of stories on Facebook or Instagram. I don't watch them, and hence I don't use them. So for me on LinkedIn, I don't naturally go to view stories. And now, like I said, because they're off screen, because I've got to scroll so far to get to them, I'm not actually looking at them, to be honest. I initially, when it rolled out, there's an algorithm at play here. So we asked LinkedIn about that, and they said that the way they're going to prioritize content is the stuff that you engage with. So if I see your story and I open and watch a story, I'm more likely to see it again. So that, I guess it's kind of linked to dwell time and interaction. But so I'm strategically watching stuff from people I want to see more of. Other than that, it's not where my attention goes, because all I see right now is the actual little plus sign where I can add a story to all the company pages, which is really annoying. I just want to, pack all that away. I think it needs to go, and I think I'm going to give them that feedback, just because it's blocking my consumption, and it's just it's around the corner.
It's one of those, you kind of don't want it to put people off the platform, because again, it's adding to the noise, and yet another reason why you might want to use it. I find it so fascinating. It's like Instagram all of a sudden have got Reels, so they're trying to take the things that TikTok are using. LinkedIn are now adopting stories and live, and it's like, okay, cool. Why can't platforms just decide what they're really good at, what they're brilliant at, and differentiate themselves, rather than everybody's just like, right, well, I just need to post the same thing to every single platform just to kind of cover my bases, which is, I switch off from brands that do that. It's just like sort of spam post everywhere. Rather than kind of use platforms for the reason in which they're intended. And I know that Elaine, so I'm just going to highlight Elaine's post here. So Elaine was my latest guest on my podcast. So if you've not listened to that, or if you're keen on technical marketing solutions, because you mentioned BHP as well. I met Elaine when I used to work in the geospatial industry as well. So I used to have a lot of mining clients and used to work in that space a lot. And so Elaine's commented saying that it's really interesting to see how it will work, and that she'll have a go for the geospatial world. And this for me, because I went to so many geospatial events, stories for the behind the scenes side of things, when you're walking from booth to booth, or you find something interesting, you want to share it with people, it's like I would always use Twitter for that, never LinkedIn. And then when LinkedIn have LinkedIn Live, I was like, oh, brilliant, especially with events, you can go and you can live broadcast at events and sort of do it as a bit of a journalism story adventure, keep people up to date for the people that couldn't go. I'm just like, for me, there are loads of opportunities that come from it, but I'm like, I can't go to these events, so
And it's a good alternative for people that don't want to use the other platform, because I know a lot, there are people on LinkedIn that don't like Facebook and don't use Twitter and whatever. So I think it's a way of almost not replacing that, but taking advantage of that sort of fast content that's going to move along. So I said you can have 100 posts or 100 stories a day, which too many, firstly, because no one's going to look through 100 if you share them. But it's using them strategically. So what doesn't work is obviously salesy content. If you're just trying to promote your latest event, because there's no function attached to it, you can't just go book a ticket. And I did do one as a test. So I was promoting LinkedIn Local, our online event. So I said there were like 5 posts around the topic, but you can't go, well, book here, because you can't link from it to the booking event. You have to tell people to look it up. Good luck, go find it, look on my profile, whatever it is. But so it's more about creating, I suppose, that brand, that sort of brand behind the scenes, or what's going on in your team, in your office, something you've learned. People are sharing, photos of the books they're reading, podcasts they're listening to, stuff like that that's easy content, and doesn't require any explaining. Whereas if you shared that as a post in the home feed, I mean, that's one of my bugbears, when people just share a post and maybe a couple of hashtags and that's it. And or like we said, they've cross-posted it to many platforms, which Katrina's just saying, no, don't do that. Because a post on LinkedIn needs to be thoughtful and needs to have a story. And I've got a framework, which I call my EQ plus IC squared framework, to write a post. And I'm happy to share it if you want me to go into detail. So E squared is, sorry, E cubed is if your post can educate, enlighten, and evoke an emotion. And if you can do all 3, brilliant. A lot of my stuff isn't really emotion evoking, but just allows you to get your personality in. So they're the 3 E's. And then the IC squared is, it needs to invite conversation. And the biggest, as most people forget, the good old question, having a question at the end, simple one, and just making it engaging, and also indexing content. So the other IC is indexing content, which is hashtags. And I've got a bit of a framework. So I talk about that with content, just to give people something to remember how to write. Because otherwise you just drop a little story, a couple of hashtags, maybe one word, and that's it. And that would suit a story, something like that. So yeah.
That's a great framework, and like I said, everybody needs to follow Jo, because she posts loads of really, really good content. And the thing I would say to people is just like that, kind of, you've got what you want to say here, and then you've got what your audience is interested in, and you need to be playing in the middle. Yeah. Because I think it's that when people just naturally think social media is all about broadcasting, and I just want to tell people what I want them to know, it's like, right, take a step back and just say, right, are they actually going to be interested in it? Is it going to add something to their world or their day or anything like that? And, just take a step back. So before hitting post, because I remember, I don't know if you saw it, that post that I did about women's exclusive networking events.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
Over a year ago, that just went completely bonkers. It was just like reached over 800,000 people, and like just went, I received some very interesting messages from people as a result of that. And I had to pass it through my other half. I was like, is this like hormonal pregnant Charlie, or is this like, is this normal Charlie? And he was like, no, that's normal Charlie. You're all right. But it's just having certain posts anyway. It's just having that, right, okay, is this actually relevant? Or is this just something that I want to add?
Or you just, it's your ego doing the talking. Because, I mean, I do a lot of work with professional speakers over here, and I know you're quite involved over there as well. And you see this post where someone will share a photo, they're on stage, they've spoken at a conference, and here's a look at me post. Or there's a show in Australia called Kath and Kim. It's very Australian. Look it up on YouTube, but they do this thing, look at my. It's a terrible interpretation, but it's a whole, and we always say that, just to have a bit of fun. But you don't want to do that sort of post, because no one cares about you. They care about how it relates to them, as you said. So I always tell people, if you're going to share a photo of you doing something or achieving something, tell the story behind it, or share some tips, hence the, EQ plus IC squared formula. So if you can educate or enlighten, and then that photo adds credibility because you happen to be on a stage while you were delivering that message, or where otherwise you're just saying, oh, look at me. And the worst ones, I reckon, are the humble brags, where you just go, I'm so honored or humbled to be voted for this award, which is probably self-nominated. Whereas I'm the opposite. I just go, look, if I don't back myself, who's going to? And, and this is why I've nominated for this award. So I'll just tell the story. I drop the curtain, and I just think people people seem to connect to that better when you've got a message rather than saying, look at me, I'm up for an award. I will tell the story about why I've nominated for the award, or why I love the organization that's putting these awards together. Like there's a group here called Women in Technology, and they're all about celebrating not just women in technology, but people supporting women and advancing careers, particularly in the STEM and STEAM space. And I'm all for that, because it's not about the awards. It's about raising everybody together.
It's about the movement as well, and what the overall what they're trying to achieve, for sure.
Exactly. And interestingly, I haven't shared this on LinkedIn yet. I'm going to write a post, but I did it on Facebook. I was on a panel with this organization to talk about why you should nominate for awards, particularly people who are quite humble or don't think they've achieved enough, or they've got imposter syndrome. And I didn't get my nomination for my own award in, even though I was talking about how important it is. I didn't do it. Purely, I'm renovating my house at the moment, the kitchen, and I was just too focused on that to get, put some time to it. So it wasn't that I didn't think I was worthy, I just didn't do it. Yeah, and I thought, well, I might share a post about that, because, am I being hypocritical by being on a panel talking about how important it is and then not doing it? Or is it, is there a story behind why sometimes it's okay not to do things as well?
Oh, definitely. And I think as well, like, if it creates a talking point too, so you can raise your hand and just say, yes, I've been speaking about this, but I haven't done it, but here's why. Because at the end of the day, you are human. We're all human.
Yeah.
Things get in the way. It's like, I know I missed loads of things as well, because up until recently, I've just been like, right, well, unless it's a priority, I can't do it, because I've got Ayrton here. He's not in nursery. So any free time I have, I'm just going to have to do the things that matter in the business. So yeah, but I think on the award space, I'm really bad at that, because I hate I completely get what you're saying, but I don't know, it just feels really icky. Just like, especially I don't like women's awards, because I'm like, I don't feel like I've won. I'm one of those annoying people. I remember doing a rowing race years ago, like literally, and then 2 teams pulled out at the last minute. So it was just our boat and another boat racing, and it was in a proper regatta. So if you won it, you won points, and we won it, but we won it by a country mile. And I was like, I don't want that point. I don't feel like we deserve that point, because we're only up against one of the boat.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The team were like, oh, brilliant, let's celebrate this win. And I'm like, that's not a proper win. No.
Another award I was nominated for recently. I'm not sure if the term mompreneur is big over there. And technically, I suppose you're a mompreneur. I'm not sure how you feel about it.
I will run away screaming. If anybody calls me, I will literally run away screaming.
One of my clients nominated me for Mompreneur of the Year award, and I just couldn't do it, because I hate the word. I don't like what it represents. I don't mind if you work with mums, like mums are your clients, and you've got a product for for babies or whatever. But my kids are older. My kids are nothing to do with my business. I feel like it's an excuse for so I just couldn't do it. And that's what I was posting about today, the fact that I couldn't nominate. I just couldn't nominate myself, go through and accept that. And then I didn't do the other ones either, which the ones I actually did value. Yeah, it's funny.
It is a bit of a minefield, but there was one that I came across the other day. It's just like this word preneur. It's like, let's just add random things in front of it, and like boss, what's the other one, boss babe, and shepreneur, mompreneur, and all these other things. And I'm just like, literally, because also, like, I am no different in business just because I have a child. My business, it's got nothing to do with the fact that I had a child. It's in one way the same as it was before, but just I have different priorities at home. So juggling things is a little bit more difficult. But I definitely don't want to be defined by the fact that I have a kid. And I think I am going to write an article, because I do think there are a few things that have happened in the last year, like being new to the whole parenting thing. And like people without kids would be like, oh, sorry, I don't get it from your world. I'm like, you have nothing to be sorry about, because before you have kids, you have no idea what it's like to have kids. But also that doesn't matter, and that shouldn't, like, the stuff that you're stressed about still matters just as much, whether you've got kids or not. It's no different. You should never apologize for complaining about something if you're complaining to somebody else that has different challenges. It's like,
absolutely
really strange. I don't know, people behave in very different and sometimes strange ways, and it's like they're trying to, I don't know, feel something. It's like, you don't need to feel like that. Enjoy the fact that you don't have a screaming baby in the middle of the night. Enjoy that. Celebrate that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, the best preneur word I like was created, you probably know Mike Winnett. Contrepreneur. I just think that's brilliant because that whole industry. And if you've not heard of Mike Winner, look him up and look him up on YouTube. He's got some brilliant videos. The best video he's got is publishing the best-selling book on Amazon that's blank. I just think that's gold.
I've seen a lot of his stuff, and I really like it. And I think it was over a year ago now. It's when people didn't know who he was, and I used to really enjoy like looking through the comments of some of his posts, because he would post things just for the hell of it, or just to generate a lot of interest. And like, oh, you're being serious. I think there was one. It was just it was something like, oh yeah, like women should just be back home in the kitchen or something. It was very tongue in cheek. It was like, obviously nothing to do with what he meant. And then there was a blurb underneath it which actually said why he'd written that. But people didn't read that bit. They just focused on the first sentence.
Yeah.
And then started like the keyboard warriors come out and everybody's like, oh, I can't believe you've said that. And it's like, well, actually, if you just read the rest of the post, then you'll understand,
He's a bit controversial in his approach. I just find that whole entrepreneur, it just explains a lot. And I don't mind kidpreneur because they use that in schools because it's kind of, that makes a bit of sense. But why can't you just be a proper entrepreneur or not? Like, you don't need to be, and as Sean says, yeah, he hates it too. But I suppose a guy saying it does sound a bit sexist. But it's just I mean, you don't have blokepreneur or dadpreneur or.
Oh no, dadpreneur is a thing now.
Oh, is it? Oh gosh.
It is a thing. And I think as well, like, so Sean's saying that I hate mompreneur too, but I can't slate it. When I did the women's exclusive networking event, I got loads and loads of messages from men that like, I'm so glad that somebody said that, because if we as men said that, then we just get completely slated. And it's just like, okay, if men can't have men's events anymore, then why the hell can women have women's events? Like, what is going on? But it's like the solopreneur as well. So Katrina saying solopreneur, that there's loads of them. I personally don't like it, but also in the same way, it's like, I don't want to be known as a woman in business. Why can't I just be a person in business? I don't want to be a mum in business or a woman in business or a female entrepreneur. I don't actually like the word entrepreneur anyway, but then that's just me.
No, I'm not a big fan either, because I just think it's like authentic. It's overused. Entrepreneur to me sounds like, I think it's someone who's got multiple businesses, is really successful, not someone who owns a business or they've started a business and they're just, that's you can, and I think you can be entrepreneurial. Like I'm it's called an EMP practitioner, entrepreneurial mindset practitioner, a profile practitioner. So I analyze through this tool people's mindset in order to apply it to LinkedIn. So it's I'm the only LinkedIn trainer that's got access to this tool. It's fairly new and I love it. But I think entrepreneurial, having in a mindset is okay, but calling yourself, it's like you're calling yourself something. It's like an expert or a guru. I mean, I know we know people who are, I know the LinkedIn guru, that's his brand, and that's all good. But over here, the word guru is not taken well. You don't call yourself a guru. You don't even calling yourself an expert. It took me a long time to be comfortable. I had to do that calculation of how many hours I've got up my sleeve. And I went, oh, I qualify now. I'm okay with that. And I know that I work hard to stay up to date, and I've got, experts around me that I learn from, like yourself and our little group. And I'm always learning, so I'm okay with that. But some things to call yourself like call yourself an influencer, I just think that's probably the biggest for me. So my book, Connectfluence, the word I come up with, Connectfluence, it's about connecting to earn influence, not to have influence or to be. You've got to earn it, I think. You can't just call yourself it. And the whole influencer marketing thing, I'm in a bikini on Instagram and I'm an influencer. I just think it's a made up thing. It's just a made up job.
It's kind of diminished the term, I think, as well. Like when I do customer profiling exercises with clients, I always used to use the term influencer. So like, which people influence the decisions?
Yes, that's okay.
Of the people. Yeah, but then every time I start talking about influencers now, everybody automatically thinks about, the kids on YouTube playing computer games or unboxing certain tech, or, like the girls in bikinis, like doing their makeup on Instagram. It's like, no. There are different types of influencer. You've just got to understanding what context is so important. And again, back onto like LinkedIn content, is that the more context you can include, the more likely people are to relate to that and then understand what it is that you're doing. So Sean's just put, watch this space. I have a feeling that I'll be up for the Dadpreneur week or two.
Well, if there's not an award yet, there will be. Watch this space. I'm sure there will be. Someone will come up with it.
I know, you've got to self-nominate, and then it's going to cost you £150 for a seat at the table for the award ceremony, and you've got to invite at least 10 friends to be part of it.
And I guess this whole thing started over here. There was the it's the most influential business people in Perth award, And I was on the list twice. Now it's the top 100, and everybody is a winner, because if you're on the top 100, you're a winner. But then it was watching how people react to this. I'm very like, okay, sure, I'll accept a nomination and off we go. But people were running campaigns to get votes. They were running Facebook ads to get votes and all sorts of crazy stuff. And I just think you're just paying to play then. You're paying for influence, and it just becomes a little bit orchestrated and a bit, and I call that fake fluence. That's my word for that. I like to make up words.
I love it. So in your book, are you going to have connect fluence, fake fluence? What else have you got in there?
Well, entrepreneur is not mine. I can't, and I'm not talking that because that's Mike's word.
No, so connect
yeah.
fluence, was it?
Connect fluence is the word, yeah. And I've trademarked it over here, and I tried to get it in Urban Dictionary, but they declined my definition. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't edgy enough, because it was kind of boring, I suppose, the way I defined it. So I need to come up with something a bit funnier, I think. So fake fluence and connect fluence are two things. There's almost like a scale, because when I talk about how people use LinkedIn, I like to have scales. I'll say, right, are you a lurker or are you a promoter? Or are you somewhere in between, like, are you a converser? Then I'll sort of say, or are you actually a stalker? That's a whole other ball game.
Well, it depends on, I like a bit of stalking. I don't mind a bit of stalking.
well, there's professional stalking, as we know.
That's ethical stalking. Yeah, I don't know, just like, I think, because I encourage it, a bit of ethical stalking. It's an interesting conversation, because I think there is a fine line. You can definitely take it too far. But I think as long as you've got, it's that purpose and intent. I can't tell how often I'm just like, right, everything has to have a purpose and intent. Why are you doing this? What do you hope to achieve as a result of this? So if you're stalking somebody, like ethical stalking, so your intent is to have a meaningful conversation with them, and also like, that kind of connect and just ignore them and hope that they like your stuff and want to buy from you. It's like, what, like, go and play on Facebook and do that. It's just talk to people. Yeah. What's happening in the world? People just don't want to talk. Right. Anyway, get off my soapbox now.
We've gone on a few soapboxes today, so yeah. And we went way off topic.
The soapbox show of Brilliant. Okay, well, we have been talking for a while now, and I have a car to pack and a birthday cake to cook.
Excellent. And I'm going to dinner at my in-laws very soon, because it's obviously evening over here in Perth, Australia.
I know. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Actually, can I just have 2 minutes? I just wanted to, because it's Friday, share a screen, because I wanted to test this out. Elaine's asked, how long can you stay on a LinkedIn Live? I think it's 4 hours, isn't it?
I don't know, because I kept going. I had a LinkedIn Live this morning, accidental discussion. And I was thinking about, could you just go all day? Could you just keep going and going and going? I don't know where the end is, but yeah, maybe it's 4 hours.
Yeah, I thought it was 4 hours. I read 4 hours. I'm not sure how accurate it is. So hopefully this will work. I just wanted to try the share screen, because obviously Chrome has lost permission. What? So yeah, this is not working.
That's right, because so I must look into if you can share like your mobile screen, like you can on Zoom, and if not, that's probably another suggestion for StreamYard, because if you can share, the LinkedIn app or whatever app you wanted to talk about, that would be useful.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
I just wanted to test this, and also just as an excuse to share the otter with everybody. But yeah, as it's Friday, it's the end of the day for you. It's just like, for everybody watching this as well, how are you going to celebrate the progress of your week? I'm going to go bake a cake and celebrate my son's first birthday. Jo's going to go and have dinner with her in-laws. How's everybody watching this going to celebrate progress? Because obviously I just want an excuse to share the otter. I created this slide the other day, and literally it's a bit sad that I just laughed at myself so much. But it's really easy on StreamYard to share a screen.
I love your otter, and I love the acronym as well. It's pretty cool.
Yes.
Love it. Yeah.
I've obviously a big fan of it now, but I think I'll do a LinkedIn Live to talk a little bit more about the otter and share more with the otters.
So I suppose if anybody's watching and doesn't know what the otter is, they need to tune back in next time.
I know, I'm going to tempt you. I'm not going to explain it now, because
I know. Clickbait.
Join me later, or go to my profile. There is a little thing about the otter on my profile, so if you go there, you can find out a little bit more.
I think it's good to have acronyms and frameworks. And fish and chips sound good.
Yes. Do you get good fish and chips in Australia?
Yeah, actually, it's not bad. And it's funny, because when I first moved here, we're always comparing to food back home, and now I'm just used to Australian food. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. We do have the English fish and chip shops that we sometimes go to, though, that does mushy peas, because that's not a thing over here. It's just not.
No. Well,
no.
Got to retain the good old British fish and chips and gravy and mushy peas, like gravy for a Nordic.
Oh, gravy, that's the other thing that you don't get very often either. It's just people look at you weird, like, oh, gravy. It's like the drink I used to drink years ago, lager and black. I'm not sure if that's a thing in your area. I know it might be a Yorkshire thing. It's essentially lager and blackcurrant. It's really nice. But you go here, but they go lager and black. Ew, that's just weird. Yeah, it's probably got some fancy name. Who knows? I haven't had one for a long time. I'm going to go have one of those, I reckon, soon.
I was going to say, you do that.
Yeah.
I will speak to you again in our Slacker group. And for everybody else, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day and hopefully catch you soon. Bye, everyone.
See you later.